What's up, guys? It's three-time NFL Pro Bowler, all-decade return specialist, Josh Cribbs. I want to welcome you to the College Sports Connection podcast, where AA Alex and AJ host the Mid-American Conference Best.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the CSC podcast. It's all action all the time. I'm your host, Alex the Captain. Joining me, as always, it's AJ the Guru.
What's going on, everybody?
AJ, welcome back. We had a pretty solid week this last week with the MAC. A few surprises in terms of final results, a few things that kind of made you scratch your head, but we are officially out of week 8 and heading into week 9.
That we are. You talk about the surprises. There are definitely a few that made me scratch my head Saturday when I was finally looking at all the scores at the end of the day. And let's dive right into it. Which game do you want to start off with? Let's start off with you. You were at Toledo, Miami of Ohio. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, let's get into that one. First off, a big shout out to Miami Athletics, giving us the opportunity to be there. Found a few technical issues, not a big fan of. We tried to bring AJ in at halftime. Apparently, the software I was using doesn't allow you to boot up a second program once you've already started recording. So
Gotcha.
Now that we know that, we can plan for that in the future. Tried to bring AJ in at halftime. Unfortunately, couldn't make that work. Overall, seemed to be pretty responsive. A big thank you to everybody who subscribed to the YouTube. We're now up to almost 30 subscribers. When we got the thing going, we had 6. So big shout out to everybody who subscribed. Going to be doing more stuff with that down the road. But yeah, let's just dive into that one really quick. This one was Toledo the entire first half. Rockets went out to a 21-3 lead at the half. And it was really interesting, right? People talk about football being a game of two halves, and this one truly was. Rockets, went up early 7-0, never actually lost the lead. Rockets owned the lead for 48 of 60 minutes in this game. And it was really, really interesting because, on paper, it was like, okay, Miami's got a really good defense. They've got the ability to shut down this Toledo team. And it was a defensive struggle that whole first quarter. Toledo blows it open in the second quarter, and really does enough. Despite being shut out in the second half, they do enough to get the win. Notable loss from that game, Brett Gabbert goes down. Does look like he is done for the season. I think officially he has one more year of eligibility. Not entirely sure how all that's going to work. He gets that free COVID year. But it's interesting because he actually is currently the MAC passing leader with 1,600 yards, 14 touchdowns. He's averaging 204 yards a game. When he left in the third quarter, this was late in the third quarter. He had 179 passing yards. Yeah. So he was on pace to, again, have 200 passing yards. Huge loss for Miami. Avion Smith stepped in, played as well as he could, kind of coming in unprepared for that.
Coming in cold.
Yeah. And he did what he could. He actually made a huge 3rd down and 15 conversion with about $1.25 left. And then on the very next play, fumbles it to give Toledo the win. So, I think Miami will be fine. They are one of the 3 bowl eligible teams in the Mid-American Conference, them, Ohio, and Toledo. Rockets maintain sole possession of first place in the West. Miami and Ohio are I still think it's the de facto MAC East championship next week. So that'll be a good one. Battle of the Bricks, the big MAC rivalry. But yeah, Toledo defense, they're still doing enough. That's I think that's kind of my big takeaway from this game. Obviously I think maybe a different outcome if Brett Gabbert is in the fourth quarter, but that aside, Toledo defense still doing enough. Didn't allow a score in the fourth quarter. Miami obviously didn't allow a score, and overall great game. Yeah, and Oxford, beautiful campus. Big shout out to
Mhm.
the group of five guys for not only doing their pregame show there, but having me on to do some picks with them. I don't know if you've been to Oxford or not, AJ. Maybe a couple
Mhm.
times, I'm sure, but it's, I mean, just unbelievably beautiful. That
It
that
is.
entire
It's very,
campus is.
yeah, very underrated campus. That's definitely one that has caught the eye of a lot of social media people who travel to college campuses and whatnot. Miami and Oxford always tends to be on that list of, hey, you guys got to come check this out when you're in the area.
For sure, for sure. So
But it's
yeah.
interesting you brought up. Oh, sorry, you brought up defense. It's interesting because that seemed to be the tale of every game on Saturday across the
Well,
country. Not only in the MAC. It was, I mean,
mhm.
big one for me obviously was Ohio State, Penn State. That was defense. Then you look at the late game for you guys on the East Coast, Utah, USC. That that's some tough defense. So it tended to be the theme of Saturday. And now as we get later into the year, it's going to get colder for some of these schools. It's going to be the run game and defense going forward for a lot of programs, and I think that started this weekend.
Well, and I think, specifically looking in the MAC, there was one game that broke 24 points,
Yeah.
and it was the Akron Bowling Green game. Falcons finished off Akron with a 41-14 victory, but nobody else scored more than 24 points. Ball State with a big victory over Central
Mm-hmm.
Michigan, a surprise victory over Central Michigan. Uh,
Very.
Kyle Kelly looked excellent, and he's starting to look comfortable as a quarterback. I think it's interesting to see how that's shifting. Um, and Buffalo, they got that win over Kent State. They're now 3-1. They're in tie for first place in the MAC East after starting 0-3
Yeah.
in the season. So it's really interesting to kind of see kind of what's shaking down. But let's kind of dive into it more. Let's talk about your player of the week. Who are you giving your helmet sticker to?
Yeah, my helmet sticker is going to Marquise Goodwin. I think he had a
Mhm.
buck 62 on the ground, one touchdown. Marquez Cooper. But anyways, he had 26 carries, 126 or 162 yards, the one touchdown. This is the Marquez Cooper that I think Ball State was hoping for when he transferred in from Kent. We saw this Marquez Cooper at Kent for years,
Mhm.
being the all MAC player that he was. This is the type of player that he was at Kent. He was kind of struggled here early on in the year, as Ball State's offense has in general. On the year, he has 500. He has 121 carries for 584 and only two touchdowns, averaging 4.8 on the ground. I think this is a phenomenal uh, stepping stone for him to finish off the season at Ball State. Obviously, they're 2-6 right now. They're gonna have to win out and win convincingly to get to a bowl game. Um, but yeah, I think this is a phenomenal opportunity. He looked great. This is the guy who we thought we would see.
Mhm.
And you talked about Kyle Kelly as well, only 101 yards passing, but when you have 243 yards on the ground between four guys, that does help.
For sure. And yeah, I mean, he looked excellent. I went back and I watched some game footage on Sunday just to kind of get some notes on these teams. And yeah, I mean, he looked like he did at Kent State. He looked comfortable in the backfield. He looked good on his routes. He broke tackles when he needed to. Yeah, he just looked like every bit of the running back that transferred in to kind of fill in the role of what Carson Steele was leaving behind. So yeah, he looked excellent. That's a great helmet sticker pick.
So that was depressing too, turning on the UCLA game that night, and Carson Steele had like three touchdowns.
Hey, good for him. That's, I mean, we know
Absolutely.
where he got his start, and he's always going to remember that. But
Absolutely. Yeah, he looked great. The hair was
yeah,
flowing, and
sure,
on that Pac-12 after dark. Well, after dark for you guys, it's still kind of like 7 o'clock my time.
sure,
But that was good to see Carson Steele. Good to see him having success out there.
sure. My helmet sticker this week goes to Terrion Stewart out of Bowling Green. 19 carries, a buck 31, three tutties. I mean, he looked excellent. I was very pleased with his performance. Bowling Green starting to figure a few things out offensively. Defensively, they look pretty good. This is the first time they've had consecutive conference wins in a
Yeah.
while. So I mean, a lot of what Coach Leffler has been preaching is building consistency, building consistency. So I think Bowling Green, got it done on the ground. They looked really sharp. Got it done through the air too. I don't want to take anything away from Connor Bazelak. Not as impressive, of course. He had I think, 69 yards, one score, 6 of 11. But really, it was the ground game.
Mhm.
Terrion Stewart who got it done. No turnovers, and that was what was big for Bowling Green in that game. Akron had 4 turnovers in that game, which hard to win a football game when you do that. But again, Terrion Stewart, he gets my helmet sticker as my player of the week. Turn our attentions to play of the week.
Yeah.
Anything that kind of jumps out to you, AJ? I've got a good one that I got to see that I'd love to discuss, but I want to give you the chance to go first.
Yeah. For me, I'm going with Sam Wiglusz. He had a touchdown in the corner of the end zone. It was about an 8-yard touchdown, which Curtis Rourke threw it beautifully over the shoulder right into his hands. If you haven't seen the clip, we'll tweet it out later on. But beautiful over the shoulder throw. He's looking back, sticks his arms out, falls right in between the numbers there for OU. So I'm gonna go with Sam Wiglusz on his corner catch.
Okay. I mean, and it's some footage I watched. Sam Wiglusz is looking excellent. He's second in the conference in receiving yards right now.
He's in the top 5 in the nation too, right?
For last week he was.
For last week, okay.
For this, that was just this past week.
He had a buck 55 through the air this week.
Yeah, so he was one of the top 5 in the country this last week. He does trail Gage Larvadine from Miami by about 132 right now. Last week was a big game for him though. But he's second in the conference right now in yards per game, averaging 62, almost 63 yards a game. And he has looked excellent as of late. But for me, it was Anthony Torres scored a touchdown for Toledo, and his touchdown was kind of ridiculous. He caught it over the defender. Like it was just one of those crazy catches where he's just the defender's all over him. He's just draped all over him. He just makes a great catch over him, especially for a tight end. I think most wide receivers would make that catch. Not too many tight ends.
No.
For me, that was a huge one.
And it's funny you bring him up too, because he was a Western Michigan transfer.
Yep.
This is his 6th year in college, and this is his first ever touchdown catch.
Mm-hmm. That's what he went to high on the broadcast too.
And he went to high school 20 minutes away from me. He was a Mishawaka kid, South Bend area. Okay. And so I had no idea. And because Mishawaka is now in my high school's conference, they joined long after I graduated. And of course, then again, it's only been 6 years. So, but yeah, he was at Western, and then it's hard to believe 6 years and his first touchdown. Good for him. And he's a large human being at 6'6", whatever they said he was.
6'6", 250. Yep.
Yeah, and good for him.
And he's a junior.
Yeah.
He's officially classified as a junior.
He's a junior.
So it's he had a great catch on that. And you're right. Yeah, that was something I was talking to somebody about afterwards. Like that was his only touchdown, or it's been his only college touchdown.
Yeah, they talked about it on the TV broadcast. So I looked him up a little bit more, and good to see he's a Mishawaka caveman. It's always good to see the local NLC guys do well at the next level.
So yeah, I mean that's who gets my play of the week. Again, just an excellent catch over the defender, and that was really the moment where it looked like Toledo was just going to absolutely start running away at this game. They scored right before half.
That was right before half. That's right.
Yeah, about 33 seconds left until the half.
Yeah, that was a fun one. And the cool, because I don't know if you were able to see the TV broadcast, but they had the camera right on the field, and they were able to show from that angle. And from the lower angle was really cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great shot. So yeah, hats off to him for a phenomenal offensive play. Just really climbed the ladder, 2 hands up, and pulled it all the way in. Yeah. Let's look at games upcoming this week. We only
got 2.
I was gonna say we got 2, and we could really, because we have midweek action starting in a week. We could kind of dive into all of them if we really wanted to, including next week's, since those games start on Tuesday.
Yeah.
But let's start with the weekend slate first. You and I are going to actually both be at these games. You're going to be at Eastern Michigan or Western at Eastern Michigan, and that's the noon game or the 1:00 game. I'm going to be at Miami at Ohio down at Peden Stadium. The first, I think our first trip to Peden Stadium.
First trip there, yeah.
Have you ever been there?
No.
Okay. So yeah, you're gonna be at Eastern, Western Eastern. I'm gonna be at Miami, Ohio. So we're gonna be at these games. I think it's safe to say those are our games of the week.
100%. And it's gonna be cool too, because our we're going to be offset a little bit. I have the earlier start, so we really have a full day of action on our social medias. We don't like to tweet over each other when we're at games,
Sure.
so that now we have a couple hours in between. We'll be able to not run over each other too much. Maybe we could do some live video feed. We could do a live Instagram together. Something like that would be a lot of fun from the gray turf from the factory. We were at the factory last year for the Buffalo game. Had a lot of fun, and I can imagine this one being an in-state rival game. This will be a lot of fun, and hopefully there's a good crowd.
Sure. It's should be a good one up there. Looking forward to seeing what Western does. They're starting to look good on offense, starting to really click. Get a few.
They're
things
really starting to
figured
figure it out. Yeah.
Eastern, and I know I got a little bit of grief in my hot takes earlier this season about Eastern not looking, or Eastern taking a step back. They have to go 5-0, including a bowl win from here on out to match their win total last year.
Yeah.
So I want to point out, I know I got a lot of grief for saying Eastern takes a step back, and the big reasons I said it were transfer portal. They're losing some depth. Wasn't confident in Austin Smith. I think he's a solid quarterback, but I wasn't confident in his ability to fully run the offense. Haven't been wrong on that. I knew their defense was going to be solid. It was whether or not they could score points. So far, I mean, they're 4-4 right now. Is that their record?
Yeah.
4-4, 2-2 in conference play. It's no disrespect to Eastern. I think it's what Coach Creighton has done up there has been excellent. But I had a feeling they were going to take a step back this year. So far, they're proving me right. But that's it for the Saturday games. We've got Halloween Maction and then Wednesday Maction. Let's just look at those games. Two on Halloween and then 2 on November 1st. AJ, what do you like about these games?
I think, well, of course, obviously we have a game in between these, but I think Central and Northern is going to be a very interesting one. As of now, still we're sitting 2 weeks out. They're both sitting at 4-4 on the year. That game's at Central, 7:00 East Coast time on ESPNU. That one's on Halloween. That one's going to be interesting, I think. The other one that night, Toledo Buffalo, it's not that interesting. It's I guess the ESPN2 game at 7:30 your time. But for me, that's Central and Northern game because that could really determine who goes to a bowl game or not, depending on what happens this week. Both sitting at 4-4, both need 2 more wins to go bowling. So I really think that one's going to be interesting. And then you look down there, the Wednesday slate, you have Ball State at BG and then Kent at Akron.
Which I'll be at that later one. I'll be at the Kent State Akron game.
Oh, fantastic. At Akron. Good deal. So yeah, that one, obviously that's going to be the fight to stay out of last place, essentially.
Sure.
And the MAC, both teams sitting at 1-7. And both teams kind of a little bit surprising. Obviously, Akron's dealing with a ton of injuries right now. DJ Irons done for the year, who was, most of their offense, and obviously losing a big game into IU in the last minute. That really, I think, deflated that team as well. But there's some interesting games that we talked about. We got NIU Central, Buffalo at Toledo, Ball State at BG, and then Kent at Akron.
Sure. No, I really like this Northern Illinois Central game just because, if Central wins this game, they move to 5-4. Northern Illinois moves to 4-5, but then that would put them both at 2-2 in the MAC West. One, it would give Toledo a chance to kind of swell their lead on these two programs, but two, it also, it sets up for a little bit of a messy tiebreaker down the road. And, I wrote a big thing last year towards the end of the season about the elusive, whatever, I think it was the elusive 8th tiebreaker or whatever for how MAC games pan out. And I kind of love that chaos, right? But that one's going to be a really good one. Looking forward to seeing, Jace Bauer starting to look really good for Central Michigan. Rocky Lombardi starting to, get it back together. Buffalo, Toledo. This one is more intriguing to me, not because it's Toledo, but because of what Buffalo brings defensively. And I've got some of the numbers here. Devin Grant has 4 interceptions for Buffalo. And that ranks first in the conference. Charles McCartherins is the other guy for Buffalo. He has 3 interceptions. So between the two of those, they have 7 interceptions for this team. Buffalo beat Toledo last year in a game that people thought Toledo was going to run over them. So Toledo is not taking them lightly. Should be a good one in the Glass Bowl. Moving to the Wednesday slate, of course, you mentioned Ball State, Bowling Green. I kind of expect the Falcons to just kind of put Ball State out of their misery. But we said that last week with Central Michigan, so who knows?
Yeah.
But the Kent State Akron game, Battle of the Wagon Wheel, another classic MAC rivalry.
You've been to that, right?
Yeah, I've actually been to that the last 2 years.
Last 2 years.
And Akron or Kent State has won it the last 3 years. Akron hasn't won it since 2019. So Akron obviously hoping to snap that streak and get a win back in the rivalry to kind of take back that wagon wheel, one that they haven't had at home in a while. But both are 1-7, 0-4 in conference play. The winner of this gets their first conference win. Neither one can go bowling at this point, but hey, a conference win is, especially over your rival, can't sneeze at that.
Better than a non-conference win.
Exactly. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for us pretty much this week. A lot on tap going on between this weekend and then obviously the middle of next week. I'm looking forward to it. It's cool. Midweek action's on its way back. We got 4 weeks of that starting October 31st. I'm excited, man.
Spooky season, yes. Yeah, we got that coming up. I've got a game here in Denver next week. We've got a lot of football coming your guys' way here really soon. But before we go, I do want to give a shout out here to one of the SIDs at Western here, Zach Manning. He's in charge of the hockey program, and we'll be doing a lot of hockey this winter as Western and Miami of Ohio both play out here in Colorado. A huge shout out to Zach for sending me I get all the press releases from Western emailed to me, and the Western Michigan Broncos are ranked 10th in the country this year. So phenomenal program. They were great last year. They were ranked as well last year, but I'm excited to see them both play here in Colorado Springs and Denver this year. But a huge shout out to the Broncos hockey program, who we're trying to get more love to on social media. We have a great relationship with them, but as I mentioned, they're ranked 12th in the nation right now at the hockey level. And they've been great the past couple of years. They're really fun to see. Hopefully you can get up there to a game this year and check them out. But yeah, the hockey season's in full swing. So make sure you guys go check them out. Both, BG, Miami of Ohio, Western. I think they're the only 3 MAC schools. Yeah.
Yeah. And they play in 2 separate conferences too.
They do.
I don't know what those 2 conferences. I think they're like the A8 or ACHC or whatever, and and then I don't know the 2 conferences, but that's awesome to have that and to get those press releases. That'll be good stuff for hockey this winter.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Like we said, got some cool stuff in the works here. We really appreciate the love and support. If there's something you want to see, let us know. Trying to crank out content that you guys are gonna appreciate, enjoy. Gotten a lot of love on some of our season stat leaders, things like that, weekly attendance. So if there's stuff you want to see, please let us know. We want to make sure we get that out to you. Try to do our best to continue to bring you some great content. So let us know. You can follow us over at Twitter or X, I guess, at College Sport Pod. You can find us on Instagram at the CSC Podcast, on Facebook, of course, at the CSC Podcast, all action all the time. And of course, our YouTube page at the CSC Podcast, going to be trying to do some more stuff there as well. Guys, I think that's going to about do it for us this week. AJ, anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I think we got a lot of fun stuff coming on this weekend. I'm excited to get on a plane early Thursday morning and fly back east, back to Indianapolis, and make my way up to Ypsi on Saturday for that game. Haven't been back to this. I've been gone over a year already, a year and 14 days.
Sure.
We moved. So, but we were lucky enough to see lucky enough to see Northern Illinois at Nebraska this year. Making my way back east for another game, which will be a lot of fun as well. But the factory is always a good time. You were up there this year. We were there last year together. This will be my first trip there this year. Overall, looking forward to it for a really good game.
Yeah, I've been up there twice already this year, so that'll be good for you. And looking forward to bringing you some more action this weekend.
Absolutely.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.